The Hippocratic Oath is a strange thing. When we graduate nursing school, we light a candle, and we promise, with our hands over our hearts, that we will abstain from doing harm. We promise to treat the sick, regardless of who they are. We promise to see the patient, not the person. But the oath doesn't tell you what to do when the devil himself is lying on your gurney, bleeding out, and you are the only one standing between him and hell. I have been a nurse for 32 years. I have treated gang members who had just shot a rival. I have treated drunk drivers who walked away from wrecks that killed children. I have treated abusers who fell down the stairs after their victims finally fought back. And every single time, I did my job. I stitched, I bandaged, I saved. Because that is what professionals do. We leave our judgment at the door, or so I thought. My name is Mary, and for 2 decades, I have carried a ghost in my heart. A ghost of a life I used to have, before a rainy Tuesday night, and a red truck changed everything. I thought I had made peace with my grief. I thought I had buried the anger deep enough that it would never find the light. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. On my first day off in 3 weeks, the phone rang. A code black, mass casualty event on the interstate. They needed everyone. When I walked into trauma room 1, expecting just another anonymous tragedy, I looked down at the patient, and the world stopped. The tattoo on his arm, the scar on his neck, the smell of cheap whiskey. It was him, the man who destroyed my family 20 years ago. He looked at me with terrified eyes and begged, "Please, help me." In that moment, I held the syringe that could save his life, or end it with a simple, untraceable mistake. What would you do? Would you let the monster die, or would you save him just to make him suffer? This is the story of the longest night of my life. Nurses don't really have days off. We just have days where we sleep for 14 hours to recover from the previous 3 shifts. It was a Sunday, the kind of gray, rainy Sunday that usually makes me feel safe. I was sitting on my porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the rain hit the pavement. My house is quiet, too quiet, some people say. But I've grown used to the silence over the last 20 years. It's better than the noise of the memories. I was drinking tea, thinking about nothing, when my phone buzzed on the table. Mercy General Hospital, emergency line. I stared at it. I wasn't on call. I had specifically requested this weekend off because the anniversary was coming up. The anniversary of the accident. I didn't want to be near sirens or blood today. But the phone kept buzzing. It vibrated against the wood table like an angry insect. I answered, "This is Mary. Mary, thank God." It was the charge nurse, Sarah. She sounded breathless. "We need you, now." "Sarah, I'm off rotation. I can't—" "Mary," a tanker truck jackknifed on I-95. It took out 6 cars and a school bus. "We are drowning. I have residents treating trauma cases. I need hands." A school bus. The words hit me like a physical blow. I closed my eyes. I could hear the phantom sound of tires screeching in my head. "I'm on my way," I said. I didn't want to go. Every fiber of my being told me to stay on that porch. But you don't say no to a mass casualty event. It's in the blood. You run toward the fire while everyone else runs away. I drove to the hospital in the rain. My windshield wipers were slapping back and forth, slap, slap, slap. A metronome counting down to a disaster I couldn't see yet. When I walked through the ER doors, it was a war zone. There is a specific smell to a code black. It's not just blood and antiseptic. It's the metallic smell of adrenaline and the sour smell of wet clothes. Screams bounced off the tiled walls. Doctors were shouting orders. Gurneys were flying down the corridors. "Mary!" Dr. Evans spotted me. He looked exhausted, his scrubs already stained. "Trauma 1. Stabilize him until the surgeon gets down. He's crashing." I nodded and ran. I didn't ask who he was. It didn't matter. It was just a body that needed to be kept alive. I pushed through the double doors of trauma room 1. The noise of the ER faded slightly, replaced by the rhythmic beep, beep, beep of the monitor. The patient was a male, mid-50s. He was covered in mud and blood. His clothes were cut open. He was thrashing, fighting the restraints. "Calm down, sir," the orderly was yelling. "We are trying to help you." "Get off me," the man slurred. "I didn't do nothing. It wasn't my fault." That voice, It was raspy, deep, like gravel grinding together. It triggered something in my hindbrain, a primitive warning bell. I walked to the side of the bed to check his airway. I looked at his face. It was swollen, bruised, older. But I knew the shape of that jaw. I knew those watery, pale blue eyes. Then I saw it, on his right forearm, revealed where his shirt had been cut away. A faded, amateur tattoo of a snake wrapped around a dagger. The ink had turned green with age, but the design was unmistakable. My knees unlocked. I stumbled back, hitting the crash cart with a loud clang. "Mary, you okay?" the orderly asked. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. I wasn't in Trauma Room 1 anymore. I was in a courtroom 20 years ago. I was watching this man, younger, cleaner, but with that same snake tattoo visible under his rolled-up sleeve, laughing with his lawyer. I was listening to the judge say not guilty due to a technicality with the breathalyzer test. This was Mitchell Grant, the man who had run a red light in his truck, the man who had T-boned my sedan, the man who had killed my husband David instantly, and my 5-year-old daughter Lily on the way to the hospital. He had walked free. He had never spent a day in jail. He had smirked at me as he left the courthouse. And now here he was, dying on my table. For a solid 10 seconds, I did nothing. The monitor was blaring an alarm. His oxygen saturation was dropping. Beep, beep, beep. "Mary, he's desatting. Bag him," Dr. Evans yelled from the doorway before running to another room. My hands felt like they belonged to someone else. They were heavy, cold blocks of ice. "Let him die," a voice whispered in my head. It wasn't a crazy voice. It was a calm, rational voice. "Just step back. Pretend you fumbled the bag valve mask. Pretend you didn't see the obstruction. It happens. People die in trauma rooms every day. Nobody will know." I looked at Mitchell Grant. He was choking on his own blood. He looked at me. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? To him, I was just a woman whose life he ruined and forgot about a week later. To me, he was the architect of my nightmare. "Help," he gargled. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. "Can't breathe." He was terrified. Good. I remembered Lily. I remembered her pink car seat. I remembered how she was singing a song from a cartoon right before the impact. I remembered the silence afterwards. I looked at the ambu bag, the manual resuscitator in my hand. I could just drop it. "Mary, what are you doing?" The respiratory therapist rushed in, pushing me aside. She grabbed the mask and clamped it over his face, squeezing the bag. "He's turning blue. Get the suction." The therapist's shout snapped me back to reality. I wasn't just a grieving mother. I was a nurse, and there were witnesses. I moved on autopilot. I grabbed the suction catheter. I shoved it into his mouth, clearing the blood and vomit so he could breathe. As I leaned over him, I smelled it. Beneath the copper scent of blood, there was the undeniable pungent stench of stale bourbon. He was drunk, again. 20 years later, another rainy day, another crash. He hadn't changed. He hadn't learned. He was still the same reckless monster. "Toxicology!" I barked at the phlebotomist who had just entered. My voice sounded jagged, like broken glass. "Run a full panel, and alcohol, especially alcohol." "On it," she said. Mitchell Grant stabilized as the oxygen hit his brain. He blinked, trying to focus on me. "Who?" He coughed. "Who are you?" "I'm your nurse," I said. The words tasted like ash. "You were in an accident." "Accident?" He chuckled, a wet, gurgling sound. "Yeah, accident. Stupid car came out of nowhere. Not my fault." My hands shook so hard I had to grip the side of the bed rail until my knuckles turned white. Not my fault. That's what he said 20 years ago. She shouldn't have been in the intersection. The light was yellow. It was red. I wanted to wrap my hands around his neck and finish what the car crash started. The rage was so hot it felt like physical burn. "You have a laceration on your neck," I said coldly, "and internal bleeding. We need to insert a central line." I began to prep his neck. I had a scalpel in my hand, just one slip of the blade near the carotid artery. Oops. The patient moved. Tragic accident. I stared at the pulsing vein in his neck. It was right there. Life and death, separated by 2 millimeters of skin, and my decision. I want to pause here. This is the darkest thought I have ever had. I have saved thousands of lives. I am a good person. But looking at the man who killed my child, knowing he was drunk again, knowing he would probably kill someone else if he lived, I hesitated. If you were in that room, holding that scalpel, could you truly say you wouldn't think about it? Be honest with me in the comments. I didn't cut him. I made the incision perfectly. I threaded the catheter. I stabilized his pressure. Why? Not because of the oath, not because of mercy, but because death was too easy. If he died on this table, he would just drift away. He wouldn't feel the pain. He wouldn't know why. He would escape judgment again. I needed him lucid. I needed him to survive long enough to know exactly who was saving him. Dr. Evans returned. Good job on the line, Mary. Surgeons are backed up. We need to hold him here for 20 minutes. Monitor his spleen. If he drops, we rush him up. I'll watch him, I said. Go. Dr. Evans left. It was just me and Mitchell Grant in the trauma bay. The curtain was drawn. The pain meds were kicking in, making him chatty. The drunk courage was coming out. Hey, nurse! He grinned crookedly. Blood stained his teeth. You're a tough one, huh? Strong hands. I didn't answer. I adjusted the drip rate. My head hurt, he complained. Give me the good stuff. Morphine. Come on, don't be stingy. You've had the maximum dose, I said. I have money, he mumbled, trying to reach for a wallet that wasn't there. I can pay. I have connections. You treat me right, I'll take care of you. He was trying to bribe me, just like he's probably bribed someone to lose his blood samples 20 years ago. I don't want your money, I said quietly. He squinted at me. You look familiar. Have we partied before? I leaned in close. My face was inches from his. No, Mitchell, we haven't partied. He froze. How do you know my name? I'm a John Doe on the chart. I know a lot about you, I whispered. I know you like wild turkey bourbon. I know you drive trucks because you think they make you own the road. And I know you have a snake tattoo because you think you're dangerous. Fear flickered in his eyes. The drugs were fighting the panic, but the panic was winning. Who are you? He demanded, trying to sit up, but the restraints held him. I'm the woman who was in the sedan, I said. The blue sedan. 20 years ago. Intersection of 4th and Main. His face went pale. Paler than the blood loss could explain. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. David, I said the name clearly. And Lily, 5 years old. She was wearing a tiara because it was her birthday. Mitchell Grant started to shake. The monitor began to beep faster. Beep, 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 beep. No, he whispered. That's gone. That was dismissed. I was cleared. You were cleared by a court, I said, checking his blood pressure cuff. You weren't cleared by the universe. And tonight, Mitchell, the universe brought you to my room, my shift, my hands. He looked at the IV bag hanging above him. He looked at the syringe I was holding. Just saline, but he didn't know that. Are you going to kill me? He whimpered. Tears mixed with the grime on his face. I should, I said, and I meant it. I should push a bolus of potassium into your line. Your heart would stop instantly. It would look like cardiac arrest from the trauma. Nobody would question it. Please, he started to sob. Please don't. I have a wife. I have kids. The audacity. You have kids, I hissed. I had a kid too, until you crushed her. I'm sorry, he wailed. I'm sorry, I was young. I was stupid. I didn't mean to. And tonight? I asked, pointing to the door. The school bus on the highway. Was that an accident too? Were you drunk tonight, Mitchell? He looked away. He couldn't meet my eyes. That was the answer. Yes, he was drunk. He had done it again. The rage was boiling over, but my mind was icy cold. If I killed him, I would be a murderer. I would go to prison. I would dishonor David and Lily's memory. But if I let him go, he would walk again. He would hire another lawyer. He would find another loophole. I needed something better than death. I needed justice. I looked at the counter. My phone was sitting there face down. I picked it up. I opened the voice recorder app. I hit record. I placed it in the pocket of my scrubs, the microphone facing out. "Tell me, Mitchell," I said, my voice changing. I sounded softer now, compassionate. I was playing the nurse again. "You're losing a lot of blood. You might not make it to surgery. If you die tonight, do you want to die with a lie on your soul?" "I don't want to die," he sobbed. "Then confess," I said. "Clear your conscience. Maybe God will let you live." He was desperate. He was high on fentanyl and terror. He believed I held the keys to his survival. "I drank," he blurted out. "Tonight, I was at the bar. I had 6 shots. I thought I could make it home." "And the bus," I prompted. "I tried to pass it," he cried. "I clipped the bumper. I lost control. I saw it flip. Oh God, I saw the kids screaming." "And 20 years ago," I pressed, "the blue sedan?" "I was drunk then too," he yelled. "I knew the light was red. I didn't want to stop. I paid the lawyer 20 grand to fix the breathalyzer evidence. I did it. I killed them. I'm sorry." The confession hung in the air. Clear, detailed, recorded. "Thank you, Mitchell," I said. I reached into my pocket and stopped the recording. Just then, the doors burst open. The surgical team arrived. "We're ready for him," the surgeon announced. "Let's move. Go, go, go." They unlocked the wheels of the gurney. Mitchell grabbed my hand as they started to roll him away. "You saved me, right?" he begged, looking at me with pathetic hope. "We're good," I confessed. "I'm forgiven?" I pulled my hand away from his grip as if he were contagious. "I stabilized you, Mitchell," I said loud enough for the team to hear. "I did my job. Now the law will do its job." He looked confused as they wheeled him down the hall. He didn't understand. He thought confession meant absolution. He didn't realize that in the real world, confession means evidence. The surgery took 6 hours. He survived. Of course he did. Cockroaches always survive the nuclear bomb. I finished my shift. I went to the locker room. I sat on the bench and stared at my hands. They were clean, but I felt like I needed to scrub them with steel wool. I took my phone out. I played the recording. "I paid the lawyer 20 grand to fix the evidence. I did it. I killed them." I walked out of the locker room and went straight to the police captain who was standing in the waiting room, updating the families of the bus victims. Captain Miller knew me. He knew my history. "Mary," he said gently, "I heard he was your patient. I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "Captain, I have something for you." I played the audio file. Miller's eyes widened. He looked at me, then at the phone. "This." "Mary, was this obtained under HIPAA violations? Was he sedated?" He was speaking freely to a medical professional who urged him to clear his conscience for spiritual reasons. I said, using the legal phrasing I had rehearsed in my head 1,000 times. "And he admitted to a past felony, tampering with evidence and bribery, which is not protected under doctor-patient confidentiality when it involves an active investigation into a new mass casualty crime." Miller smiled. It was a grim, wolf-like smile. "I can work with this. We can reopen the old case with the bribery admission. And we have him dead to rights on the bus crash. The toxicology report you ordered came back. He was 3 times over the limit." I nodded. I went up to the ICU 2 days later. Mitchell Grant was awake. He was handcuffed to the bed. There were 2 police officers outside his door. I walked in. He looked at me. His eyes were filled with hate now. The fear was gone, replaced by the realization of what had happened. "You bitch!" he spat. "You tricked me. You recorded me." "I saved your life, Mitchell," I said calmly, checking his chart. "Your vitals are stable. You're going to live a long, long time." I leaned over the bed rail. "You're going to live long enough to stand trial for the bus crash. You're going to live long enough to be retried for my husband and daughter. You're going to live the next 40 or 50 years in a small concrete box, without whiskey, without trucks, without freedom." I straightened his blanket. "Death would have been too easy for you," I said. "You don't deserve the peace of darkness. You deserve the nightmare of staring at 4 walls, knowing that the woman you destroyed is the reason you are breathing." He lunged at me, straining against the cuffs. The metal clinked against the rail. He couldn't reach me. He would never hurt anyone again. I walked out of the room. I walked out of the ICU. I walked out of the hospital into the morning sun. The rain had stopped. The air was crisp. For the first time in 20 years, the ghost of the blue sedan wasn't following me. I had looked the monster in the eye, and I hadn't blinked. I hadn't become him. I had saved him. And in doing so, I had buried him. Etrois outro. That was the hardest shift of my life. But as I drove home that morning, I finally turned on the radio. I finally sang along. Justice doesn't always come with a gavel or a gun. Sometimes it comes with an IV drip and a voice recorder. Now, I have a question for you, and I need you to be brutally honest. I broke confidentiality. I manipulated a patient. Some might say I was unethical. Others might say I was a hero. If you were in my shoes, holding that syringe, would you have let him live, or would you have let nature take its course? Tell me your verdict in the comments. I read every single one. If you believe that karma eventually finds everyone, hit that like button. Écoute-la. And please, share this video. Don't let people forget that drunk driving isn't an accident. It's a choice that creates monsters. Subscribe to the channel for more stories from the edge of life and death. I'm Nurse Mary, and I'll see you on the next shift. Be safe. Enarjakui.